Welcome. Today I'll be showing you how to recreate the matrix scene code effect in Photoshop. Remember, all I am offering is the ability to see people in code, nothing more. With that said, let's jump right in. So I've got my subject here and I've just isolated him using the pen tool prior to this. If you want a backup copy of the subject like I've got, you can do this by selecting the layer and pressing Ctrl or Command J. The first thing we're going to do is go to Image, Adjustments, and then Threshold. Adjust the threshold slider so that you reveal the highlights of the image and so that the key features of the subject's face becomes clearly visible. Once you're done, hit OK. We just want to keep the highlights and the outline of our subject, so this means we need a way to get rid of the rest of the image. By going to Select, Color Range, and then using the provided eyedropper to select the shadows of our subject, we can get a selection over the parts of the image we want to get rid of. We also have to rasterize the image before we can delete our selection, so now go to Layer, Rasterize, and then Smart Object. Now when you hit Delete, you should be left with the highlights of the image as well as the outline of the subject. The backup copy of my subject is getting in the way now, so I'll turn that layer's visibility off. And we're now ready for the background, so I've turned that layer on. We now want to add a stroke, inner glow, and outer glow to our subject, and we can do all of this in the layer style settings. To access the layer style settings, just click the FX icon down here. Here are the specific settings I used, but basically all we're doing is adding a green stroke and glow around our subject, as well as a white glow to the highlights of the subject. After applying these changes, here's what we get. We now want to add some depth. Since our subject is standing in front of the background, the code he is created of should appear larger than the code in the background. Duplicate your background and then hit Ctrl or Command T to resize the code. From here, let's now add a subtle warp to the larger code so that it actually wraps around the edges of our subject. You can access the warp settings by going to Edit, Transform, and Warp. Subtlety is key here because we don't want to overdo this. Once you've finished warping, hold down the Option or Alt key and drag the layer mask of your subject onto the larger code layer. This lets us copy over the layer mask so that the larger code is only visible inside our subject. To separate the subject from the background a little more, we can add a brightness/contrast adjustment layer on the background. Drag the brightness slider towards the left to decrease the brightness of the background and make the subject stand out. Just so we can see a little bit of the background through our subject, I'm also going to set the blend mode of the larger code to lighten. If you feel that the subject's code is overexposed in a specific area, you can also create a black solid color and paint a little bit of black in between the subject and the background. Just to make the code of the subject a little brighter, I'm also going to add a color balance adjustment layer over the subject's code. After adding a camera raw filter, here's what I ended up with. That's all for this tutorial, but if you enjoyed it, check this one out, where we use similar techniques to create a Wild West wanted poster. Thanks for watching.